Right. Well, good evening. And thank you to everyone who is here in person and for those who are a part of our online audience this evening. I'm pleased to welcome you to the District 5 School Board Candidate Forum. District 5 represents schools in Springfield, Ortega, parts of the West Side, and Northwest Jacksonville. We appreciate you spending your evening with us and demonstrating your commitment to public education and to our city. My name is Rachel Tutwiler-Fortune, and I am the president of the Jacksonville Public Education Fund. I'm pleased to co-moderate the school board candidate forums this year with my colleague Leofric Thomas, who serves as JPEP's manager for data and policy and played a leading role in organizing the 2024 forums. JPEP is an independent, high-capacity local education fund with the mission of activating community support, connecting partners, and advancing effective ideas for the success of all students. Our work is grounded in research and best practice. We also actively seek input from parents, educators, students, and community leaders. These forums are being put on by a coalition of nonpartisan, nonprofit organizations. We would like to thank our forum partners, and we invite them, if they're in the room, I know some are at their posts at the front of the facility, to stand as we recognize you. Among them are the Duval County Council of PTA, the Jacksonville Civic Council, the Jacksonville Public Education Fund, the Jacksonville Tributary, the NAACP Jacksonville Chapter, and 90 Forward. Your engagement matters, and we're so grateful that you're taking time out of your busy schedules to be here tonight. Among you this evening is City Councilman Jimmy Peluso, so we appreciate him taking time to be with us this evening as well. And we also have officials from Edward Waters University who we want to appreciate for having us at their beautiful facility this evening. Our candidates who you will hear from this evening are Dr. Nashawn Nix and Mr. Hank Rogers. We thank you both so much for participating this evening. Right before the event start time, Mr. Reginald Blunt did reach out to inform us that he could no longer make it. So before we begin, I just want to share our ground rules for this evening. For the candidates, we'll start with brief introductions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and we will do that alphabetically. Then we will transition to the question portion of the evening. We'll alternate the order of respondents, so each candidate has the same opportunity to be the first to answer. Each candidate will have up to 90 seconds, so about 1.5 minutes, to answer each question, and 30 seconds to offer clarification if they choose to do so when they are mentioned by another candidate. To keep us on track this evening, during both the introduction and Q&A portion of the program, my colleague Elena will put up a yellow warning card when you have 15 seconds left for your introduction or response, and she will put up a red warning card to please end your answer when your time is over, and we'll politely move on. To get to as many questions as possible, we ask you to please keep in mind and honor those time limits. Our questions have been sourced in a collaboration between JPEP staff with some additions from our organizational partners. We will also take some questions from those attending in person and virtually. So if you're on Zoom, please submit your questions in the Q&A section. If you are joining us via Facebook, please use the chat to share your question. And if you're in the room here at Edward Waters, please use the question card that was handed to you upon arrival. We'll do our best to get to as many questions as possible, but please know that we may not be able to get to all of the questions. We're also live on Facebook, so we invite you to search Jacksonville Public Education Fund, and you'll find the forum there. To help us ensure that this information reaches as many people in our community as possible, we ask that you would share this forum with your networks. And so you can just share it from the Facebook page when you are able, and even now if you're able to do so. At the end of the forum, each candidate will have 2 minutes to make closing remarks. Some topics on the agenda include school closures, the role of the school board, equitable education, teacher recruitment and retention, and parent and caregiver engagement. We also want to remind you of some important election information before we begin. The primary election will be held Tuesday, August 20th, with early voting happening from August 5th through the 18th. You still have some time to sign up for a mail ballot if you wish to do so. If no school board candidate receives more than 50% of the vote during the primary, there will be a runoff between the top two candidates in November. This opportunity is only available in this district, the District 5 race, which has more than two candidates running. And the general election will be held November 5th, with early voting happening from October 21st through November 3rd. School board elections provide the community with an important opportunity to engage with the public education system. And we're grateful to the candidates for taking their time to speak directly to the voters and for their interest in public service.
As we prepare to delve into the questions and hear from the candidates, we also want to ensure the community understands the role of the school board. School board sets policies that govern our schools, such as district's code of conduct. The school board is also tasked with adopting policies to comply with education-related legislation, like those that may come down the pipeline from the federal and state governments. The school board is also responsible for the budget of the school district. Although the state of Florida has a big say in how the funding of the school district and what the funding of the school district receive, the school board determines how a lot of these education dollars are allocated within the school district. The school board also approves curriculums for all schools. Therefore, they are directly responsible for how our future accountants learn math, how our future surgeons start out in science, and how our future writers learn the nuances of language. Finally, the school board oversees facility issues. It is the responsibility of the school board to approve or deny changes in school academic programs like magnet programs, and which schools should remain open or closed down.
So we're going to go ahead and get started with introductions. So starting with Dr. Nashawn Nix, please introduce yourself to those tuning in.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Nashawn Nix, your candidate for School Board District 5. My values are around faith, family, and community. I'm the only candidate that's in this race that has a degree in education from this university. Slavery ended in 1865. They founded Edward Waters College in 1866. It's going to take resilience, someone who really has a strong backbone, a visionary with some fire in their belly to be able to lead this particular district. I believe that with a strong platform, such as, number one, fighting to keep our local neighborhood schools open. Number two, making sure that all of our children feel safe. Hey, baby. Making sure that all of our babies feel safe while in school. Number three, retaining the top educators in Duval County Public Schools. And number four, making sure that our babies graduate either college ready, career ready, and or entrepreneur ready. I believe that there's gold in the old, revisiting programs like home economics, teaching kids life skills, how to sew, how to cook, how to run a successful household, as well as infusing the trades, making sure that those who desire to work with their hands are not penalized because they don't want to go to college. I don't say college ain't for everybody. I say everybody ain't for college, and they should not be penalized in Duval County Public Schools. I want to make sure that we're also partnering to help those who have that entrepreneur spirit, that they're tied in with JCEP, they're tied in with Jack's Chamber to see how we can help them grow their vision. This is not a one-man show. The same type of efforts that put you out here today and tonight is the same efforts that we're going to need in order to move the ball forward and keeping our schools open. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Now let's hear from Mr. Hank Rogers.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for having me. I am Hank Rogers. I decided to change up the way I wanted to open tonight. I'm going to open this way by saying this. For over 20 years, you have seen me at work. You have seen me in the schools. You have seen me advocate for students. You have seen me on the job. I'm not new to this. This is not something I'm new at. I have been advocating since I came to Jacksonville over 25 years ago when I attended the University of North Florida and received a degree at the University of North Florida. I have been a guardian ad litem. I have been a substitute teacher. I have been in our schools each and every day, ensuring that at the end of the day, we provide a high quality education for every student that you and I desire them to have. I've been doing the work. ensuring that we increase our graduation rate, making sure we increase the number of students that go off to college, military, career, trade, secondary education. Ensuring that at the end of the day, those students who are even behind get caught back up with our Bridge to Success program. I have continued time and time again to show up to our SAC meetings, show up to community meetings, show up even when I wasn't running. I've been showing up for a long time. And I won't stop showing up until I believe and you believe that every student has the same opportunity that you and I had when we came, and that's a high quality education. Ensuring that they are ready for the global society. That's what we're fighting for. That's what I'm running for. That's why I'm running, to ensure that that happens for all of our students. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. So we're going to start back with Dr. Nix with this first question. We're going to start with a challenge that has activated our community in a major way, and that is the recent master's facility plan proposals and school closure recommendations. As we are sure you know, the district passed a sales surtax a couple of years ago to help renovate and rebuild a number of school facilities. At the same time, the cost of construction has skyrocketed and enrollment has declined more than previously expected, meaning that the district is not able to build everything that was promised in that sales tax campaign and has begun to float the idea of potential school closures instead. Can you describe how you, in partnership with the now new superintendent and the board, would elevate the district's facility plan, given these challenging circumstances, and ensure thoughtful use of the district's capital and sales surtax funds, while addressing the community's growing concerns?
Yes, that was probably a super long question. And to keep it simple, when elected, my objective is to go line by line with the budget to see how we can eliminate duplicated services. Also going through purchase orders for vendors who are not fulfilling their end of the contract. My first objective is to see how we can eliminate waste and put it back into the budget to fulfill our commitment to our children and to their parents. When you look at school closures and when you look at increase in taxes, we voted to increase our taxes to improve public schools and not to close public schools. I will go back in and say personally, this is like a mandate to run for office because I feel like it was a bait and switch. I don't feel like they were honest, open, and transparent. Amen in the back corner. I don't feel like they were open, honest, and transparent when they made the pitch. Now, my job when elected is to hold the superintendent's feet to the fire. We got to execute on a commitment that we made to the people of Duval. And this doesn't just impact schools pertaining to Fishware and Stockton. This also pertains to schools within the urban core, the beaches and the south side. We want to make sure that all of the commitments that we made, we're going to execute in excellence by making sure that we're going line by line to make sure that we're maximizing the tax dollars of our constituents. Thank you for listening.
Now, Mr. Rogers.
I would take a different approach. My approach that I would take would be really taking a look at the enrollment of every school, making sure, I agree, we do need to take a look at the budget. As the former chair of the half-cent sales tax committee, looking at transparency and accountability, I disagree that there was a bait and switch. Let me be honest, there was no bait and switch. I think what was promised to the voters has been implemented. You're right, there was a bait and switch. The bait and switch happened in Tallahassee. And Tallahassee turned around and Tallahassee changed the rules of the game. That is a bait and switch, absolutely, right? Tallahassee put in law that we had share those dollars with charter school. And so if there's a bait and switch, you're absolutely right, there was a bait and switch. And we have to turn around at the end of the day, work with our friends in Tallahassee to ensure that legislation in Tallahassee fix that problem. So we do need to take a look at enrollment. I think the school board has done a good job as it relates to a new policy that they have in place when it come down. How do we get community involvement? Here's how we get community involvement is through our ACE program. We have an ACE process. I served on many ACE processes right down the street at Eugene Butler. So if we need community involvement, we have to have community involvement by bringing the community to the table in the ACE process and say what's working, what's not working.
Thank you for that. Well, Mr. Rogers, keep the mic because we'll stay with you here. In the event that schools possibly in this district may still face school closures, what will be your approach to a school's community, and how will you guide them in understanding the decision made by the district?
We have to be honest with our community. Should we go into that position, we have to be transparent with the community. It would be the same approach that I have always taken, informing the community of the truth. Here's the truth. Here's the facts, right? And so the facts are what the facts are. I'll give you a great example, so let's use what has happened recently. Duval County Public Schools held several meetings. I was honored to be a part and went to all of the meetings with R.L. Brown and R.V. Daniels as it relates to consolidating those schools. The community was not informed in enough time as it relates to what was taking place. So what did I do? I got with the superintendent, Dr. Krisner, I got with the school board members, I got with their whole team and said, we need to make sure that the community is invested and they understand what's going on. Because we had never done that in the past. We didn't do that with Brentwood. We haven't done that with any school, closing them the same year and moving students over. So we have to be transparent in the process. We did that with Brentwood. We did that with other schools. And so for me, it would be the same approach that the school district has always taken, making sure that we hold meetings, making sure that the community is clearly aware of the numbers. Here's the reality. The reality at R.V. Daniels was we have a building that has about 600 seats, and we only have about 160 students in the building. So to combine them with R.L. Brown makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Dr. Nix?
Power is on, but the volume's not working. My time hasn't started, has it?
No.
All right. So I want to make this very clear. All right, I'm not elected yet, but I spent my time, energy, and resources on a SAC committee at Brentwood Elementary. We pulled up all types of historical data about how Tommy Hazzuri graduated from Brentwood Elementary. We pulled up architects and designs and historical building structures. We pulled up how the principal took the school from an F school to a B school over a 3-year period. We pushed back as much as we wanted to, and you know what happened? They shut it down. You tell people to show up to meetings, and you still shut it down. Then what happens is it becomes an eyesore. I volunteered, I've mentored at Carter G. Woodson, same thing with Henry F. Kite. What do? They shut down the school, then it becomes an eyesore to the whole neighborhood, to the whole community. What was once a beacon of hope is now a dim light. And my job when elected is to fight to elevate your voice. I know what it's like to fight on the outside, but you have a vote with Dr. Nashawn Nix, if I get in that seat with your support, to be able to push back. Now, you look at precedents. They call them PICO dollars. I said, how does Orlando have new schools and Duval has the oldest? Well, because they take the football field and build a new school and turn the old school into the parking lot. And that's how you tap into PICO dollars. My name is Dr. Nashawn Nix.
This question comes to us from our partners at the Jacksonville Civic Council. We're living through a defining moment for the future of public schools and public education. The Civic Council launched a strategic plan that emphasizes a vision in which we retain and attract new talent to Jacksonville to access our best-in-class education. 2 pillars of that plan focus on 1, inspiring people to act with a vision and story of Greater Jacksonville, and 2, building a system of education that produces the workforce of tomorrow. Let's take those goals one at a time. Dr. Nix, we'll start with you for this question. For inspiration, what education systems, districts across the nation, for example, would you consider to be world-class, and why? And what might we do in Duval County to move our school system in that direction? We would like to know what initiatives you may prioritize to enhance our public education system.
I would say when it comes, you always have to start at home. It's a poor frog that doesn't praise its own pond. I believe we got some great educators. We got some A schools in Duval. We got some schools at 100% capacity, but they're still on the chopping block because of poor management. My job is to make sure that I'm open, honest, and transparent with your support. Now, when you look at best models according to certain standards, they say Massachusetts has the best schools in the nation. Then you go down the street about 30 minutes, we have people that drive past Duval into St. John's because they believe that they have the best school system in the area. And then you go a little bit further south to Dade County, people believe that Dade County has the best school system in the state of Florida. My objective is to help fulfill the mission of Duval County Public Schools. Every school, every child, every day. And when you're able to work with children from a diverse population, which I have done, because I worked in over 20 schools, public schools in Duval County, I work with principals. I've actually provided professional development for principals upon request. I work with some of our most severe behavioral issue children pertaining to emotional behavior disorder, oppositional defiant disorder. I have a proof of work of working with just about every nationality that's moved into the city. We have over 600 families that move into Jacksonville every single week, according to the Jacks Chamber. I believe that if we partner...
Sorry,
Thank you.
we're at time. All right, Mr. Rogers.
I don't know how you really define success. Over the last 5 years and 5 years in a row, the state of Florida has moved the bar. And so it's how you define success. So this year, a school that was an A school this year wasn't an A school last year. We're always changing the rubric in Tallahassee. And so it's how individuals define success. And so if we're in a point, and we get to a point where Tallahassee continues to keep the bar the same, I think we'll have a better shot at the end of the day of trying to figure out what success looks like in our schools. You're right. There's countless of areas that we can look at. But at the end of the day, if we are moving the bar every year, how do you then define what success looks like? It would be my goal to look at best practices throughout the country and bring those to Duval County and work with our leaders here to implement some of those strategies. They're out there, we just have to implement them.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. We'll stick with you to start off this next question. This one focuses on the goal of preparation. What are the top 2 or 3 skills we need to teach our kids so they're ready to join the workforce of the future? As a school board member, what policies will you put in place to assure students reach those skill sets?
Yeah, the two that I really want our school district to focus on to prepare our students for the future is critical thinking and communication. They have to be critical thinkers, and they have to be able to communicate. And so we need to make sure that we're implementing policies, we're implementing curriculum in our classrooms to teach that for the global society. And so it would be my goal, it would be my work to turn around and make sure that we infuse that throughout elementary, middle school, high school to prepare them for the global society.
Thank you. Dr. Nix.
Can you restate the question, please?
Sure. On to the goal of preparation. What are the top 2 or 3 skills we need to teach our kids so they're ready to join the workforce of the future? And as a school board member, what policies will you put in place to assure students reach those skill sets?
Yes. Number one, we got to teach our children how to read. According to studies from the data from 2023, we're at like a 33% students at reading level in Duval County Public Schools by the 3rd grade. If we're not challenging our youth coming in from partnering with Head Start and whoever else is working with our toddlers, when it comes to reading, the rest of this stuff is going to be extremely difficult because literacy covers every profession. It covers every area. And I believe that we really have to focus. I believe the Mayor Donna Deegan, has a great reading initiative. Kids Hope Alliance, dedicated funding source to work with our children. They have great reading initiatives. Read USA has a great reading initiative. And I believe as we continue to make sure that we're building up that particular competency, that competency is going to yield great dividends down the road. And that's what produces a critical thinker. And I'm speaking as someone that has gone to the highest level of education. If anybody has ever filled out a FAFSA form for student aid, they ask you, what is the highest level of education of your parents? Well, my biological father dropped out of high school. My mom stopped at high school. But I want to make sure that when my oldest daughter hit that box, that she knew her father completed his PhD. And I have a degree in Christian education and urban leadership.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. Mr. Rogers, we'll pick up, I'm sorry, Dr. Nix, pick up with you. And equality in education means providing the same resources for everyone, whereas equity requires us to take into account each student's individual needs and provide tailored support accordingly. Regardless of your district, Duval County Public Schools serves, the majority of Duval County Public Schools serve students who are racially diverse and are labeled as economically disadvantaged. How do you plan to equitably support all students as a school board member for the entire county?
And I can speak from the positionality of what I've already been doing. In my PhD, I wrote out a curriculum called SEAL Team, Social, Emotional, and Academic Leadership Through Mentoring and Martial Arts. I'm not going to say reading is going to make you a better martial artist. However, I believe that martial arts will make you a better reader. Being able to tap into your modality of learning, being able to find out if you're audio, visual, Montessori, hands-on, being able to help build a high sense of self-awareness, self-dignity, self-determination. Because if I believe that I have a certain type of leadership and skills and experience that will help put a fire in our children's stomach, to help them understand what is achievable with putting the work first. Now, pertaining to when it comes to educational models, I do believe that there's other organizations that also provide the same thing, but in different ways. The goal is partnership. When you look at the World of Nations, when you look at the census, when you look at the that move into Jacksonville, I believe that we're able to reach out to see how we can bring those same figures and community leaders back into the classroom through partnership. When you start looking at working with the fact that we have the highest concentration of Hispanics, Filipinos, as well as those from the continent of Africa. And I have worked with those communities in various circles to be able to help provide needs assessments.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. And Mr. Rogers, same question for you.
You'll repeat the last bit of that question, please. Thank you.
Well, I'll just do the whole one. Regardless of your district, the majority of the Duval County Public Schools serve students who are racially diverse and are labeled as economically disadvantaged. How do you plan to equitably support all students as a school board member for the entire county?
Yeah, I think for me, it's ensuring that at the end of the day, we are providing services throughout, resources, the same resources throughout the county. What we find in some of our schools, unfortunately, especially when we implement pilot programs, with our pilot programs, one of the things that we see, we do it in one side of town, but we don't do it on the other side of town. They'll have you believe that I have not been in over 30 plus schools since I've been here. Since I have been here, I have been in over 30 schools. I have seen the inequities in our schools on certain sides of town, especially as it relates to implementing the program. We have an influx of immigrants coming into our district. And so we have to meet them at their needs as well. We have to speak their language. We have to make sure that at the end of the day, we're providing them the same resources that we're providing all of our students. So we have to increase our resources, make sure our resources at the end of the day are the same across the district. Technology. One of the things that I found that was interesting when we implemented the technology, some technology was implemented with Fidelity on one part of town. On the other side of town, it was no technology at all. So we have to make sure we're doing everything equally for our students in order for all students to succeed. Every student should have the same opportunities and the same chances to be successful in our school district.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. The next two questions are about challenges that are not specific to Duval County. They represent nationwide issues that Duval County Public Schools is working with many partners to address as we speak. Mr. Rogers, we'll start with you for this question. In Duval County, the percentage of third graders passing the Florida State Assessment for Reading has not exceeded 52% in the last 10 years of available data. What are your thoughts on how to approach this historic issue?
I think for me, as it relates to the attendance issue, well, as it relates to this issue, we have to take a look at attendance. We have to take a look at attendance. We have to get the kids, well, as people like to say, butts and seats, right? In order for us to address this, we have to turn around and make sure we're bringing the kids into the schools. Give you an example. One of the things that we have seen at Ramona Elementary. Ramona was dealing with this issue for many, many years. We recognize even with Ramona Elementary, the students were not coming to school for various reasons why they wasn't coming to school, various reasons why their grade level was an F, right? And so one of the things that we implemented programs. We turned around and worked with the superintendent, worked with the community, partner with different organizations, partner with EWU, bringing in mentors to increase. What wound up happening when we did that? We turned around and saw the school go from an F to a C the next year. So for me, it would be, in order for us to address that, we have to turn around at the end of the day, get the students in the building. That's how we change it. You have to get them in the building. In order for us to turn around and change this culture, increase, we got to get them there. We have to have them in the school building in order to change that culture, to move us from 52% to 70% like other counties have.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Dr. Nate, same question.
Test, okay. All right, and, okay. When you look at reading, exposure broadens perspective. And the previous question talked about certain demographics, and your learning level also ties into your earning level. I was a social service coordinator for Hollybrook Homes and Apartments. And in Hollybrook, it's income-based housing, right? And I worked with parents who did not have a GED or high school diploma. However, I was able to track and manage data and partner with the Jacksonville Library to bring in someone to teach GED courses on that property at no cost to the residents. So that way, while the child is in school, the parent is also in school, and they're reinforcing the same thing. And that's the power of partnership. I believe that there's resources out there. At the same time, exposure broadens perspective, and people don't know what's achievable until it's been presented to them. But I've worked in multiple capacities throughout my lifespan, and that's just one area that I believe that we can leverage those partnerships to not just help the child, but also help the family.
Excellent, thank you so much. Dr. Nates, we'll start with you for this next question. In Duval County, the number of students who are considered chronically absent, missing 4 weeks of school, has nearly doubled to 27% from where it was the year before the COVID-19 pandemic. It was 15.6% then. What role do you see the school board playing in getting students to school?
Yes. Well, number one, I believe we probably have the most expensive busing system in the state of Florida. A large portion of our budget goes into non-instruction pertaining to busing children. However, that's on the outside looking in, it's not the inside looking out. case in point, what the barriers may be for that child not showing up to school, meaning that the term neighborhood school, they may not qualify because they were not lotteried in, and now they have to be bused. But then again, if the busing system has not been finessed and fine-tuned, numerous times throughout the last 2 years, I'm getting telephone calls from my children saying, "Daddy, the bus ain't came yet. The bus ain't got here yet." And like I said, I mean, those are some things that are very serious that have nothing to do with the child or the parent. It's just the fact that we haven't fine-tuned the process. I mean, I'm not just a candidate, I'm also a parent with children in the public school system. This matters to me directly. So I really would like to be able to take a deeper dive to see what those barriers are, and then to see how we can work with those parents to make sure that they understand what their child is missing out on. And once again, we don't want our children going to school to get a permanent substitute. We want our children going to school to a permanent teacher. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. I don't believe any child or human being cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And I want to know, I want all of these children, these 128,000, to know that I care.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. Mr. Rogers, same question.
So for me, it's a school-by-school approach. When we take a look at the attendance and why we're seeing a decline, we have to really, as a school board member, be in our schools, see at the end of the day from a school-by-school approach. Again, Ramona Boulevard. Ramona, when we went in there, was an F school. I went to a CAT meeting, looked at the data showed. I then turned around and I met with the principal of the school. And I said to the principal, what is causing this? Here's what she said to me. She said, hey, several years ago, we had a bus to pick students up from Victory Point and the motels in the area. That bus is gone. Parents were afraid of having their kids walk across Lane Avenue to school. When it rained, they wouldn't go to school. So we have to really do a deep dive. You're right, we do have to do a deep dive. We have to do a deep dive by school to really understand what is happening at that particular school and understand it from the leadership of the school standpoint. Here's what we did. When we met with Dr. Green, we met with the board member, and the school board, the principal said she needs a bus. We wind up getting 2 buses, one to Victory Point, one to the motels. What happened? The school grade changed. Students started coming to school. The school went from an F to a C. Now the school this year is a B school.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. And we're going to stay with you. As we reach this pivotal moment in education, leadership and accountability is at the forefront, especially with policies in Tallahassee. So you will be joining the board at a time where there's a superintendent that has just assumed leadership responsibility for DCPS. The superintendent is a critical and one of 2 positions that report to the school board. Tell us about how you would approach building an effective and collaborative relationship with the new superintendent, balancing accountability and support to ensure success in advancing DCPS's mission.
I would do what I have always done over the past 20 years. And here's what I have always said, from John Fryer all the way to Dr. Krisner. I don't care who sits in the seat. At the end of the day, whoever is the superintendent, and I have worked with all of them up until Dr. Bernier. But regardless of who's the superintendent, I sat there and I met with them, got to know them, got to hear their vision, got to hear their passion, got to hear their mission, got to hear where they plan on taking our district. If our visions align, we were able to, at the end of the day, collaborate. And I collaborated with many of them to help move the district forward, to bring issues, not only just District 5, because people will tell you, I don't care what side of town you lived on. At the end of the day, it was about making sure that all students were being served across the board. And so for me, I will do what I have always done. And that's sit down, get to know the superintendent, collaborate with the superintendent, and come up with a plan. And when we veer, and sometimes we do, and we disagree, come up with compromise and work through our challenges. But as I have always done with every superintendent who has sat in the seat, I'm going to continue to hold their feet to the fire.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Dr. Nix, same question.
If you would, please repeat the question.
Absolutely. You will be joining the board at a time when there's a new superintendent that has just assumed leadership responsibility for DCPS. Superintendent is a critical and one of two positions that report to the school board. Tell us about how you would approach building an effective and collaborative relationship with the new superintendent, balancing accountability and support to ensure success is in advancing DCPS's mission.
Okay, thank you. All right, to be clear, right, I'm running because my peers called me out. My elders called me out. They called me out when I was in Harvey's. They called me out when I was at the gas station. They called me out when they saw that they were closing down schools. And they said, Nix, I know you ain't gonna just let them do that to our babies. I know you just ain't gonna let them do that to our schools, because they know my heart and my passion. And I want to build the relationship first with my constituents and make sure that they understand that the power is in their voice. I'm just the one that hits the button for them. And all I want to do is make sure that when I sit down with the superintendent, I'm letting him know this is not the Nishan agenda. This is the people's agenda. This is what they want. This is what they want to see. And I want to make sure that I'm executing what my constituents are asking for. They want their schools open, figure it out. They want our children safe, figure it out. They want to make sure that when their children graduate, they're actually ready for the next level, whether it's college, whether it's career, or whether it's entrepreneur. And they want us to make sure that we're holding the superintendent's feet to the fire. And I believe that the power is actually in the people. My job is to amplify your voice with my vote and how we shape policy.
Dr. Nix, will stay with you with this following question. As a school board member, how would you envision working with legislators, government officials, nonprofit organizations, and business leaders to enhance educational opportunities given the unique challenges and opportunities facing public education today?
Yes, as a business owner, one of the things that I have challenged with is that when you're looking at funding, a lot of times you have to make sure that you're executing on what your capabilities are. You're executing on what your capacity is, and making sure that you don't have funding gaps by having access to capital. I led one of the first Americans of African Descent economic summits, working with different partners in the business community. I've worked with Jack's Chamber as far as going out to different cities to see how we might be able to emulate or duplicate what's happening with the River City in another state. The power is definitely in the partnership and making sure that our children are getting real world experience, not just at certain schools, but throughout the district. So I do look at partnership as being a huge component when it comes to the business community, working with elected officials. This is shared accountability. And with shared accountability, once again, breaking down that city council person, and at the same time that state representative and that state senator, as well as their U.S. representative and their U.S. senator, meaning that it doesn't just stop here locally. It starts here locally, and that's what you call bottom-up leadership. And we take that mobilization and we keep moving it up, and to see how we can tap into other dedicated funding sources. One of the challenges that we have within our city is being able to secure federal funding for local issues and local needs. I can't do this by myself, and that's why I'm asking for your help and your support.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. And Mr. Rogers, same question for you.
I'm actually gonna steal a phrase this time. I'm the only candidate in this race who has worked in Tallahassee and understand the role and the relationships of Tallahassee and local government. I have done it. I did it for 10 years. So I'll continue to build those relationships. I have relationships in Tallahassee. I have always had relationships in Tallahassee. Know how to pass legislation, know how to get legislation done, but I'll work to ensure that at the end of the day, we're advocating for our school district, that we're putting forth good legislation and working with our lawmakers in Tallahassee so they understand, listen, we have lost local control because of Tallahassee. So we need to advocate for local control relationships. We need to partner with our nonprofits, our business sectors, and really at the end of the day, tell our story. Tell our story to all of those individuals so they know how we move Duval County schools forward. That's what I'll do, build relationships, I'll advocate for our schools, and I'll make sure that we have great partnerships.
Mr. Rogers, we're going to stay with you for this next.
Can I chime in on that? I can't chime in?
He didn't mention you, so we won't be able to.
He said I'm the only.
He didn't mention by name, so we wouldn't be able to come cross-reference you for this question.
Well, I can take his time.
No, we won't be able to do that. We got to move on. But you can address it in your next question if you would like to do so. So I'll start with you for this question. What is your perspective on school choice and in the use of publicly funded vouchers? How should the school board work with legislation to provide support and accountability to all schools receiving public funds?
Okay. So I want to say this, okay? Sometimes when people say something, you take it at face value, and they don't mean any harm by saying it. But if somebody tells you that they work in the state legislature, that's an elected position that they've never been elected to. And working in the capacity as an aide doesn't qualify you as a legislator. That means that you provide support services. I've actually worked in executive levels in my own business and other businesses and successfully been able to hire employees. I've actually ran a college campus. I've hired, I've fired. I've done evaluations, continuing education, recruitment and retention. And you need someone that's used to making tough decisions. And that's what I have a history and a background in doing, making tough decisions. Now, when you look at expanding out pertaining to how school choice works, I can't make a parent bring their child to Duval County Public Schools. I can highlight all the features of a Duval County public school education, especially when you hear my sparkles in the background yelling, "Dad, Dad." The reason why she can do that is because somebody taught a doctor how to put tubes in her ears. The reason why she can see me is because somebody taught a doctor how to do corrective eye surgery. Where both of her eyes were facing in, they taught them how to pull them apart.
Thank you, Dr. Neeks. Thank you. Mr. Rogers, same question for you.
Would you repeat the question? Because
What is your perspective on school choice and the use of publicly funded vouchers? How should the school board work with legislation to provide support and accountability to all schools receiving public funds?
Yeah, so I believe all parents should have school choice. I believe that at the end of the day, I don't agree with what Tallahassee has done as it relates to the voucher program, opening up and removing the income cap and opening up to everyone, where everyone now has school get a voucher. It's like a coupon with many individuals at this point. Let me say this, because I got to correct the record, because the record has to be corrected, of course. I have over time and time again made tough choices. I have served on many boards where we had to make tough choices. As the chief operating officer of the Amistad Foundation, make no mistake about it, that is a position that is a decision-making decision where we hire, we fire. That lands on my desk. As it relates to budget, that lands on my desk. So no, I don't want it to be said that he has no executive experience. That is not the case. I have executive experience. I know how to govern because I serve on boards, Jacksonville Housing Authority, vice chair there Northeast Florida Community Action Agency, vice chair there. So we make tough decisions, and I know how to govern. I know how to lead. That's why I'm running.
Thank you for that, Mr. Rogers, and we're going to stay with you here. How would you advocate for greater fiscal transparency from charter schools regarding the use of the sales tax funds? And what measures would you support to ensure all types of schools, traditional, public, charter, and private, report student outcomes effectively to assure parents and the community of the quality of education their students are receiving?
Is it on? We are. So I would work with the Florida School Board Association, because at the end of the day, unfortunately, Tallahassee has tied our hands as it relates to charter schools and holding them accountable. As the former chair of the Citizens Oversight Committee, you don't know how many requests we made to our charter schools in order to really understand how transparent we wanted them to be. We sent letter after letter saying, tell us what you're doing with taxpayers' dollars. Here's what happened, because you got to know the truth. The truth is Tallahassee then passed legislation saying the school districts cannot ask charter schools about their funding and the funding that we're receiving with your taxpayers' dollars. That's what was passed in Tallahassee. That coupled our hands. So what did we do? We turned around and we asked charter schools to come before us and talk to us about how they were spending these dollars. And we continue to ask them, because we can't demand, we can't make charter schools do anything. State law says you can't do it. So we requested that they come, and guess what? The reality of it is only 4 showed up. We have 40 charter schools that receive these tax dollars, and only 4 showed up.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. And Dr. Nix?
Test. Okay. All right. With some organizational structures that some of you may be aware of, the COO reports to the CEO. I've never been a COO, but I have been the CEO and the executive director. And the executive director makes decisions. And when it comes to our dollars pertaining to tax-paying dollars, you have the right to know where your money is being spent and how it's being utilized. However, you may have to make requests, meaning through records, to be able to get itemization, or the inspector general. So you can make a request to see where your tax dollars are being spent. Now, what I would like to push for is that when children leave public schools and they go to a charter school or a private school, and then they come back after the first of the year, the money needs to come with them back to DCPS. We're going to go line by line, and we holding everybody feet to the fire. I'm here to work for you, but the mobilization and the power is in your hands. So the same way that we're coordinating, it's a collaborative, coordinated effort, working with our council person, working with the business community, working with our legislators, as well as school board members, to finish what we start.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. Our next question comes to us from our partners from the Duval County Council of PTAs. We'll start with you. Sometimes candidates run for school board with limited hands-on experience in our schools, whether as a parent, volunteer, teacher, or some other capacity. Can you tell us specifically what schools in DCPS you have worked with or in, what role you were in, and what impact you made, and how you were affected by that experience?
There's no way I can do all that in 90 seconds. But I have worked in over 20 schools in Duval County Public Schools in numerous capacities, from contracts, meaning that folks have hired my business and company to be able to work with our children who are considered to be some of the most challenging. And Dr. Kathy Von Malpress says is that if children don't learn the way you teach, then teach the way they learn. And I've been able to work with some of our most severe behaviorally challenged children and give them hope, and work with their teachers to help them better communicate with these children. Listen, there's clubs out there that I have partnered with, from the Boys and Girls Club, as well as others from communities and schools. And the thing is that no one person, no one organization has all the answers. The proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So it's not a one-man show or one-woman show. It's being able to tap into all these different clubs and all these different partners. And any pastor that lets me speak at their church, but they're not going to give me their commitment to show up to these schools, then we don't have a partnership. I got a speaking engagement. And what I'm asking is for partnership. For everybody. There's work for the parent to do. There's work for the children to do. There's work for the grandparents to do. This is a community effort. And the more that we're able to work together, the better that our children are going to perform.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. Mr. Rogers, same question.
So I have been in numerous of schools, too many names, so I won't go down the list. As a former substitute teacher, with my work with the Almond Star Foundation, where we work with the Bridge to Success programs in numerous schools, helping students who are 2 grades or more behind get caught up and put in the right grade. We have done work there. I have done a lot of work in that area. With our Reed's Jacks program, we have done work in that area. With our Gear Up program, where we're taking students from 7th grade and keeping them all the way to their first year in college. I have tracked students there and made sure at the end of the day they graduate on time and they go off to what I call their next, whether that be college, career, military, trade school, whatever their next is. And we have been successful in doing that work. We have partnered with, and I continue to partner with, communities and schools, Boys and Girls Club, you name it. We will partner with anyone at the end of the day if they're serving our children and when they're moving our children forward. We'll do it. And so for me, it's just too many to name. How has it impacted me? Let me tell you. When I see a young man, young lady walk across that stage who have had many challenges, faced many obstacles, and they receive their high school diploma, knowing that they may not have, that tells me that we're doing good work. And I'm proud of the work we're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. We'll start with you for the next question, which builds on the former. What does community engagement mean to you? Why is it important? And how would you achieve this goal as a board member for your district? Please share what type of activities you would implement to keep your constituents knowledgeable of the DCPS policies, programs, and goals.
For me, I want to implement office hours in our schools where we have about 30, 40 schools in District 5. I'll go out and have office hours where I'm there all day, making sure parents, the community know that I'm in the building and I'm listening from the students, staff, the parents, all. Yes, we will do the traditional. We'll do the chat with the superintendents. We'll do town hall meetings. We'll do social media. We'll do all of the things that we need to do at the end of the day to make sure that our community is aware of what's happening. So I'm going to do it all, but I think we got to get to their level. We got to go to the barbershops. We got to go to the churches. We have to go to the community meetings. We have to go to all organizations to meet parents, meet the community where they are. At the end of the day, we know that individuals are not showing up to community meetings. They're not showing up to town hall meetings. So we have to find creative ways of getting it to them. We're going to start an e-newsletter to make sure that people know what's happening in District 5. We're going to start those conversations. And guess what? I'm not going to stop knocking on doors after it's over with, because I want to make sure that the community continues to see me and continue to know that at the end of the day, I'm still going to show up.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Dr. Nix, same question, please.
Yes. When you look at community engagement, and this is a grassroots campaign, and grassroots is pretty much meeting folks where they are, and I believe that through those neighborhood associations, those community meetings, we've been very successful because a lot of the communities that we've been able to merge with, we follow their calendars as well when they're doing open events. Whether it's family-oriented or an adult atmosphere, we try to meet the people where they're at. But people do like consistency, and I've written op-eds for the Florida Star newspaper, being able to give opportunities for folks to see, you know, these are the things that we've been able to accomplish the first 90 days, the first year. These are some things that we're tracking. These are some trends that we're having, as well as capitalizing on public service announcements. And then coordinated events with that council person, because every school district is broken down into 2 city council districts, and working with that elected official to see how we can better communicate. So instead of duplicating messages, we can basically have a unified approach. So that way we can be more effective and we can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. Because you best believe I got folks asking me, how can they get a red light, a stop sign, and a speed bump? And I said, when I see Mr. Peluso, I'll let him know.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. Thank you, Dr. Nix. At this time, we're going to ask if you have any Q&A question cards that you would like to be asked, that you would hand them in. We have our partner, Miss Melissa, towards the back. Please raise your hand. She'll come collect those for you. And our colleague, Miss Wana, will be walking around with survey cards. We want you to take a picture of those QR codes and please give us your feedback on tonight. We want to make these forums better and better as time goes on. We have 1 more forum left, but we do want to build on these as time goes. So please take those take a picture of the QR code on those surveys, and please fill out and respond back as we look to do a deep analysis on those surveys and those feedback that you give back. Thank you so much. So we'll pick back up, Dr. Nix, with you. And this question focuses on educators. So teachers are the #1 most important factor in our schools for student learning. Data shows that fewer young people are pursuing education careers, and that approximately 50% of teachers leave Duval County Public Schools within the first 5 years. We also know that a diverse teaching workforce can improve outcomes for students, and our teacher workforce isn't as diverse as our student body. What can DCPS do to recruit and retain a high quality and diverse teaching force?
Yes, I'm going to share this, right? It's when you talk about becoming a teacher, in my humble opinion, it is the most sacred profession in humanity, because it's the one that shapes the mind of our future. And I believe that when you look at education, you typically don't go in looking for the big payout, but you do look for the big impact, and you should be compensated accordingly. To be clear, one of the main reasons why our educators are not being compensated properly in Duval County Public Schools is because we have a budgeting issue and a management issue. So if we can go line by line to find out where we can eliminate waste, we can possibly put more money back into our teachers' pocket. But not only that, going after federal grants and federal programs to be able to pull down those federal dollars to help them with professional development, advanced studies, advanced education, and stop contracting out purchase orders when we already have the service providers in-house. So I don't believe it's magic. I do believe it's management, and I do believe I'm fit for the job. I'm fit for the course. However, I cannot do this by myself, and I'm going to keep soliciting your help, because many hands makes the load light. And I believe that we can continue to retain the top educators in Duval County Public Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. Mr. Rogers, same question.
I think that the question dealt with the diversity pool. Right?
Would you like me to repeat?
Yes, because I want to make sure that
All right, data shows that fewer young people are pursuing education careers, and approximately 50% of teachers leave Duval County Public Schools within the first 5 years. We also know that a diverse teaching workforce can improve outcomes for students, and our teacher workforce isn't as diverse as our student body. What can DCPS do to retain and recruit a high-quality and diverse teaching workforce?
Yeah, the only reason I wanted the question repeated is because I thought we was dealing with diversity of our teachers. And so one of the initiatives that I think that needs to be continued is a program and an initiative that Duval County Public Schools have, which is the WANS program and the UNOS program, making sure that we get students, teachers who look like our students more into the classroom. And so I agree with that initiative. I agree that we need to pay our teachers more. We need to recruit the best and the brightest teachers in our school district. I always say this, thank you, thank you. Why do I say thank you? Thank you for going out in 2022, voting for the millage in order to pay our teachers more. And so this year, with the millage increase, some of our teachers got anywhere between $5,000 to $7,000, and we got to do more of that to ensure that we keep them. We had a teacher vacancy one year over 400. Now we're down to about 70-something teacher vacancies. So we're trending in the right direction. We just got to make sure that we're listening to our teachers and we're paying them what they're worth. The other thing that I'll say is we have 2 schools that have teaching academies that we have to beef up in our schools, and we have to promote them better. And that's at Westside High School and that's at First Coast. They have teaching programs in those schools with their early college programs to start to train students early on. We have to make sure that those programs are promoted.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. So this next question or 2 comes to us from both the Jacksonville Civic Council and 904 Forward. What is happening in Duval County Public Schools that you're proud of? How should DCPS approach the task of better conveying what's right with our public schools?
I think one of the things that we should be proud of in Duval County Public Schools is our diversity in programs. Early college, ACE, AP courses, the offerings is very diverse. We should be proud of that. We have a selection of different dedicated magnet schools that our students can go to. If you want to study the medical program, you can go to Darnell Cookman. If you're into the arts, you can go to La Villa and Fort Caroline, you can go over there to Douglas Anderson. If you want to deal with engineering, you can go over to Riverside. And so I think that is something that we should be proud of in our school district. We have a diverse offering, and we should continue that. We need to strengthen that. But the only way we're going to strengthen that is by making sure people know what we are offering. And so we have to make sure people understand at the end of the day what's in the building. They have to know what's in the building. So I think we're very proud of the offering that Duval County Public Schools do have.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Dr. Nate, same question.
Please repeat the question.
What's happening in Duval County Public Schools that you're proud of? How should DCPS approach the task of better conveying what's right with our public schools?
All right, yes, it's an old cliche that good has a bad marketing department. And as your next elected school board member for District 5, my goal is to be a great ambassador. Those 600 families that are moving into Duval on a weekly basis, I don't want DCPS to be an afterthought. I want this to be the primary goal. I got to get my baby in this public school system because they are emerging. They are right there on the cusp of excellence. One of the things that we do right is our partnership with ViStar. It's one way to bring money back into the public school, and it's one way to be able to help our children with financial literacy and banking, which Jacksonville is really one of the leaders in the industry. So I do think that that partnership with ViStar is wonderful. We have some great military academies. I believe Frank H. Peterson has one of the best automotive shows in the state. It's been featured on a national level. But once again, good has a bad marketing department, meaning that we have to go back in and find ways to highlight our features. And one of the things I did want to add is because we have such a diverse population, I would love to work with sister cities in other countries so that way we can have an ambassadors program to where we're representing Duval in other countries, and other countries are getting to experience Duval over and vice versa, those students are also coming back to Duval. I would like to be able to highlight that with sister cities is big picture and big vision.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. We'll stick with you for this question. And what are 2 to 3 things that you would focus on that you believe are holding us back from being as great as we can be?
Small thinking. Small thinking is holding us back. I've been on some chamber trips in different cities, and these cities are tearing it up. But none of them have access to the beach, access to a river, a regional trade zone, a foreign trade zone, CSX. I mean, we got an international airport that does an international flight to Puerto Rico. I mean, we got so much potential. We got an unused customs department. I mean, this city is really on the cusp of doing some great stuff. But leadership and big picture thinking. I'm so glad our mayor has a big picture mind, a big vision, and being able to have like-minded folks on the school board to help build up a workforce that can match that. That's what we need. We need big vision. Like I said, I believe that we got some great talent, even when it comes to history and art. I believe we have some of the best restaurants right here in Duval. And I believe that as the Four Seasons and a new stadium comes in, we also got to make sure that we're training our children in tourism. Because like I said, we need big vision, big thinking, leadership. And I don't believe that it's any one person. It's a collaborative effort. But I would also love to see how we can pull down federal funding to help make Jacksonville a STEM hub for science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics, as well as tying into agriculture.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. Mr. Rogers, same question. What are 2 to 3 things that you would focus on that you believe are holding us back from being as great as we can be?
I think for me, again, is marketing and telling our story. We're not doing a good job of telling our story, and we're not doing a good job of partnering with different entities in our city. Give you a great example of that. We have the zoo here. We should have a program when students start talking about they want to be a veterinarian, they want to go and work with animals, they want to do X, Y, and Z. We don't have a partnership with resources in our district. I think that is holding us back. I think if we start working with different entities to ensure that at the end of the day, our students have, other counties are doing it. If you go to Dade County, if a student says they want to be a pilot or go into aviation, guess what? Dade County has partnered with the airport and they have a school. If a student tells you they don't want to be a police officer, guess what? They have partnered with Miami-Dade Police in order to have an academy. So they're moving from career, because we have some amazing CTE programs. We have to tell the story of what's happening in the building and be able to partner with different entities. I want to partner with the zoo. I want a program in our schools where they're moving and we don't have to go across the water for it. We can do it right here in our own backyard.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. We're now going to turn to your questions. And again, we'll get to as many of them as we can, as many as time permits. So Mr. Rogers, we'll start with you for the first audience question. How important is maintaining appropriate class sizes? What plan would you offer to protect teachers and students from a class size overload?
Yeah, I am 100% big on ensuring that we have manageable class sizes. That's what the voters voted on. The voters voted to make sure that at the end of the day, teachers don't want to be in a classroom at the end of the day with 30, 40 students. They don't want that. Parents don't want that. Parents have told us that. Parents have told us that. Teachers have told us that. It's unmanageable, behavior issues, you name it, and the like. And so I will work with the board to ensure that at the end of the day, we are not passing policy and we don't have policy that increase class size. What has happened over the years, when we have increased class size, the state has fined the district for going over class size. So we're incurring a cost by doing that. And so keeping class size down by listening to our parents, by listening to our teachers would be my approach, and making sure that we have good policy in place that does not increase class size.
Thank you. Dr. Nix,
Please repeat the question.
how important is maintaining appropriate class sizes? What plan would you offer to protect teachers and students from class size overload?
Okay. Now, because of metrics that are off pertaining to class sizes and student expectations, one of my niches with martial arts is setting clear expectations. And when you're able to capture our young people's imagination, they're fit to learn. But until you capture those standards and that imagination, it's going to be hard to teach any information. Now, I've never been a substitute teacher, but I have prepared lesson plans. I have taught in public school. I have taught in private school. And I've taught just about every subject from K through 12. Regardless of a class size, it goes back to classroom management. And when classroom management is put in and those expectations are managed properly, I've seen some of our most challenging youth at Brentwood Elementary. I've seen the principal yell on time and through time. What she was doing was setting the expectation that this is not the time to play and goof off. This is the time to capitalize on education. So I understand that we do need paras in the classroom, especially when it comes to certain learning styles and certain information. But I do believe in a qualitative engagement. But the setting the standard of the mission of Duval County Public Schools and making sure that our children know that they're coming here to learn. Once again, this is one thing that we can't afford to get wrong. There are no do-overs with this.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. And we'll stay with you for this question. What teeth does the board have, or should the board have, to modify fiscal activity and improve budgetary considerations?
Okay, we do have committees within the board, right? So obviously we have to pass through committee, then it goes before the board for a vote. Typically, in order for anything to pass, it have to be a 4-3 split, right? So we do have teeth. My commitment to my constituents, which is you, the voter, is a promise to be honest, open, and transparent. Meaning that if I made a decision, this is why I made that decision. And these are the factors. I mean, when you talk about making decisions, I do believe in a SWOT analysis and SMART goals and using logic models for input and outcomes, meaning looking at historical data and precedents. So I promise to do my due diligence before making a decision that's going to impact our teachers, that's going to impact our children, that's going to impact their parents. And that's what my commitment is to you, to be honest, open, and transparent.
Mr. Rogers, if you'd like me to repeat the question, I can.
If I understood the question correctly, it said, what teeth does the board have when it comes down to budgetary
Considerations.
The reality of it is limited, right? Because the way the funding works is you get the funding from Tallahassee. Tallahassee then dictates to you, at the end of the day, what you can utilize those dollars on. And so it comes from the federal government to the state, from the state to the local government, and then the local government is very restricted in how it can really move that budget around. And so it's very limited control that the school districts have as it relates to the budget. Is not a lot of room, because if it was a lot of room, I'm pretty sure the school board would have increased teachers' pays to what they want the teachers' pays to be at this time. They don't have the control to do that because it's dictated by Tallahassee. And so trust me, at the end of the day, if Tallahassee takes the handcuffs off school districts as it relates to the budget, as it relates to all of these restraints, we'll have amazing school districts, not just in Duval County, but all over. We have to know that at the end of the day, when you take a look at what Tallahassee has done with the restraints and how you can move money, that impacts our schools. Here's what I'll tell you. Here's what the law is. The law says, hey, they want you to have a teacher salary at $50,000. Duval County has it at $47,800
Thank you, Mr.
because of the
Rogers.
budgets.
All right, for this next question, you can start. What is your plan for bringing up enrollment in the Duval County Public School System?
For me, it's trying to win back the families. For me, is again telling the story, telling what's happening in our school buildings. When I go to Fishware, and Fishware has an amazing arts program, we have to really talk about that program that a lot of families don't know about. When I go to John Stockton that has the GATE program, the gifted and talented, and they have a waiting list over there, we have to tell that story. But here's the other reality of that is, if John Stockton has this GATE program over there and is thriving, R.V. Daniels and R.L. Brown have the same program but is not, we're doing something wrong. And so it would be my plan to work with either an outside firm, work with the superintendent, work with those in-house, to come up with an aggressive marketing plan to market all of our schools and tell what's happening in the building. I think if we do that, charter schools, private schools are doing an excellent job of that. Gone are the days where your neighborhood schools was your number one choice. So we have to do just what they're doing. When I walked into the airport, the first thing I'm greeted with is St. John's Day School or St. John's. They're advertising their schools, they're advertising their programs. And so we have to do the same thing. And we have to get rid of the stigma that goes with many of our schools.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. And Dr. Nix, same question for you.
Yes. I'm not sure if I'm the only candidate that has their own business, but I believe I'm probably the only one that's ever worked in college admissions right here at Edward Waters and was very successful, as well as Strayer University and was very successful. And when you start talking about recruiting, one of the biggest things people want to know is testimonials. When you have parent testimonials, it registers with other parents. And it's a free, simple way to get the message out. It's not magic, it's management. And like I said, I'm not saying I'm better than or worse. I'm just saying that I've had some unique experiences that would show beneficial to helping us having a standard of excellence with Duval County Public Schools. Parents trust children with me. That's every nationality. I have worked with them. Every age group, I have worked with them. And I've been able to build a book of business over the last 10 years because of those testimonials. I've seen what he's been able to do with my baby. I've seen what he's been able to do with my son. I've seen what he's been able to do with my daughter. Those stories resonate.
Thank you, Dr. Nixon. We're going to stay with you for this question. How do you feel mental health services can best be provided for our public school students?
Yes. Shout out to my wife in the back. We're very big on preventative health. For those of you that may not know, my mom passed in 2020 from fentanyl. I do not say this to you to solicit your sympathy. I'm saying that if we can get ahead in prevention, and we can get ahead to make sure that those resources are hitting those classrooms. I remember working with a young lady who had an attitude every day. She wasn't hearing anything I had to say. I said, what's going on? She said, well, my father's in prison. I haven't talked to him in 3 years. I said, can you please write him a letter? And I'll put the stamp on the envelope. Lo and behold, her father responded back. And that child was the best student in my class because I was able to get to the underlying issue. However, if we're not properly staffing the schools with guidance counselors, we're not properly staffing the mental health department, then basically we're going to have people that are so busy doing bureaucracy type stuff that they're not actually providing the services for the children. And that's what I want to be big on. I've surveyed our children throughout the pandemic, and they tell me about the anxiety. They tell me about the depression. They tell me about feeling overwhelmed. And then after we get it all out, then we can get the work done.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. And Mr. Rogers, that same question for you.
I have worked with all grade levels, from K to 12. Now, I haven't worked in the college setting, but I have worked with all nationalities. I have worked in all sets of schools, with all sets of students. As someone who works with the Gear Up program, I'm running is on my platform. That's why I put it as one of the number one things, the mental health services for our students, because I've been in the buildings and I see and witness what our students are experiencing on a daily basis. The trauma that they bring into the schools from what happened at home, what happened in their communities. That's why I made it a number one thing for me. Many students come to my mind when I think about those who came up to me when I was a student success coordinator and talked to me about committing suicide. Shared with me some of the things that they experienced in their own neighborhood, witnessing individuals in their neighborhood, even at the school bus stop, get shot. And making sure that we have resources for them. Because here's the reality. If we don't address their mental, we can't teach them. So we have to address the mental, and we have to provide a wraparound service, not just to them, but to their families. So we have to provide more funding in that area. That is something Tallahassee is doing right. They're providing funding for those services.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. We'll start with you for the next audience question. One of the biggest issues we hear about from parents about schools is the concern of school culture. Culture plays a critical role in our ability to retain students and teachers in a time when school choice is forcing competition for students and teachers. How will you as a board member address culture in school buildings and the district?
That starts with thank you. So that's maybe it's just me. I'm just thinking it's me. They don't want to hear me. We on? Okay. I think it just shook. Yeah, I think the battery's dead.
This one's about to shut off too, it looks like.
Are we up? Testing. Okay. So for me, I don't forgot the question because I was worried about the more into the mic than.
The question is, how will you as a board member address culture in school buildings and the district, knowing how important school culture is?
Yeah, for me, and I agree. It starts at the top. It starts at the leadership level. It starts at the superintendent level, and it trickles all the way down. And so one of the things that I appreciate is ensuring that at the end of the day, I hope our new superintendent go into our schools, see what's happening on the ground level, and make some changes, because it's at the top. And if we're addressing it at the top, then it filters down. That's what we have to do to address the school culture in our schools. At the end of the day, I want to be able to walk into a school that's welcoming, and that's what parents want to see. That's what parents want to hear. When you say good morning, how are you doing? How's your day? Not just to the students, but to the staff, to the custodians. And in many of our schools, some of our leadership is doing an amazing job with the climate and culture that we're seeing. They're doing an excellent job. We need to replicate that success throughout the district. What's happening in one school should happen in the other school, but that starts with leadership, that starts with the superintendent, and that starts with how school board the superintendent work together to show it. And I have seen some superintendents do an amazing job showing their leadership as it relates to what they want our schools to become. And I think we need to continue that.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. And Dr. Nix?
And the question was centered around addressing culture of the school?
Yes.
Okay. With the program that I developed and built with children that I have worked with throughout this city, the first thing I teach them is that everything begins and ends with respect. And I'm from the philosophy of prefix and not suffix, meaning if we get it right at the beginning, we don't have to clean it up at the end. And when you start looking at best practices of making sure that we're treating, there's this line from the movie, Remember the Titans, and they were asking the young man, why do you keep letting this guy hit the quarterback? Why aren't you, what are you doing? Why won't you talk to them? Why won't you talk to your team? And he tells the coach that attitude reflects leadership. And I have the attitude and the leadership to make sure that we're treating everyone with decency, dignity, and respect. And when that has been demonstrated and when that has been modeled, we can really change a lot of behaviors, but it has to be modeled. And I'm not saying it's not being demonstrated and modeled, but at a mass capacity, setting the standards high. There's different research and different models that say when you elevate a child's expectation, you automatically change the standard. And we want to make sure that we're setting the standard of excellence.
Thank you, Dr. Nix, and we'll stick with you for this next question. How will you support career education in District 5 and throughout Jacksonville?
Career education?
Career education.
Is that pertaining to the teacher, or is that pertaining to the child?
You'd have to ask the person who wrote this question.
All right. But that's a great question. That's a great question. So number one, right? I'm a first generation PhD, right? And I'm not saying that you have to call me Dr. Nix. I'm just saying that in our home, continuing education is the standard. If you're a medical doctor, you're going to have CEUs. If you're a nurse, you're going to have CEUs. So it's almost as if you're creating a culture around continuing education. And when you're looking with careers, we want to make sure that we're partnering with the business community, because we do miss out on great businesses and corporations coming to Jacksonville because they don't feel like they're going to have a qualified workforce. So we want to make sure that we're partnering with the business community to make sure that our children are not just prepared for the jobs of the present, but they're also prepared for the jobs of the future, while also providing those professional development units for our educators. We want to make sure that we're always on top of innovation. My wife and I have cut checks to schools to help send teachers to get professional development out of Orlando. And basically, it was not in that principal's discretionary budget. So she reached out to me and said, can you help me? Then another thing is, one of the children that graduated from Ed White High School, we did an in-school tournament. I asked him what he wanted to do. He said, I want to become a merchant seaman. However, he did not have the money to do that. So what did I do? I used my influence to raise the $1,500 to be able to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. And Mr. Rogers, same question for you.
We on? We are. So it's continuing education or career education?
Career education.
Career education, that's what I thought. I thought it was career education. So as it relates to career education, I think we have some amazing career education programs in Duval County Public Schools. When we take a look at our CTE programs, if you go to West Side, when you take a look at their career education program, got the teaching program. When you look at the medical programs there, we got to fund them. We got to make sure that at the end of the day, we're funding our career education programs with fidelity. And so we have Jackson that has an amazing program there that deals with sports management, things of that nature, cybersecurity. We have to partner, especially with cybersecurity. First thing come to my mind is making sure that we partner with FSEJ that have the same program to ensure that our students are prepared so they leave high school and move on and get a bachelor's degree in that field. And so let's ensure that with career education, we have the programs. Let's fully fund our programs. We got a grant, Duval County Public Schools got a grant many years ago to expand our career education programs. We have to start in middle school, and then progress those same programs in high school so that our students are prepared for the real world.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. This next question, we're going to make our last audience question for this evening. We got it from in different forms from at least 3 audience members. So we want to make sure we cover this one. Why do you really care about being a school board member? So what's your motivation for running for this office?
I guess I start first.
Yes, please.
I have been laser focused, been in Jacksonville on one. Hello. Maybe I need to stand right here. I told you earlier, I have been laser focused on one thing since I've been in Jacksonville, and that's about the welfare of our students. I haven't run for anything outside of school board. I ran 8 years ago, and many of you know I wasn't successful 8 years ago. But the promise I made 8 years ago is the same promise, and that regardless, I'm going to continue to fight for our students to make sure that they are prepared for the real world after they leave our school system. I haven't stopped with that mission. That's why I'm running. I'm running because I have always showed up. I have always attended meetings. I have always advocated for our students. I have always been in our buildings. I have always made sure that at the end of the day, our students got what they needed regardless of the side of town they're on. That's over 30 schools. Someone said to me earlier today when I was coming over, they said, Hank, you don't do a good job of bragging about yourself. You're right, because I'm too busy doing the work. And when you're too busy doing the work, you don't brag about yourself. I'm not bragging about myself. I'm just telling the facts of what I have done in the 20 plus years I've been here. That's why I'm running. Yes, you're right, absolutely. I don't have no kids. But here's what I tell you about that. I just truly believe all kids are my kids. All of them.
Thank you.
And I'll continue to work for them.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Dr. Nix, same question.
I have a strong passion and a desire to make this place better for the next generation. And it has been my life's work, which is why I labored these halls to get my degree in education. That's why I pushed myself so hard to put a curriculum together to be able to find a way to protect our princesses, to where our children will always have a way to be able to have a fighting chance. Whether it was physically, emotionally, psychologically, they will always know that they are equipped with God-given tasks, talents, and abilities to be able to thrive in any environment. No journey is worth bragging about if you ain't ever been through anything. And all I'm saying is I have some unique experiences that have benefited thousands of our children in Duval County Public Schools, as well as abroad, to where they are productive citizens in our local community. And they call me out at the gas station. They call me out and say, I want you to teach my son what you taught me. Those are the type of things that wake me up early in the morning and keep me up late at night, trying to find ways to improve our future.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. Now we want to give 2 minutes to each candidate to make closing remarks. We're going to start this time with Mr. Hank Rogers.
I gotta laugh because I thought that was the closing remarks.
I know, I was thinking the same thing.
I thought it was the closing remarks. And so I got more time to talk, right? This was not an easy decision for me to run for school board again. I took this journey 8 years ago. After much prayer, the same stories I heard over and over and over again propels me yet again to do this again. And that's looking in the faces of students whom I have worked with, watching them go off to college. But here's what I have told you from the very beginning. If you elect me, you will elect someone who has always showed up. You will elect somebody who has always been focused. Whether I have worked with children at the Youth Crisis Center, whether I have worked with children at Job Corps, Fresh Ministries, whether I have worked as a guardian at Lightem, or even as my work, which been somewhat diminished tonight, saying that you just a CEO at the Alma Star Foundation, I've been laser focused on children. That's been my life's work. I'll be honored to continue the mission that we started. This ain't about me. It's not about a position. This is not about me just wanting to be elected. This is about, at the end of the day, me wanting to. I have always served. I have served even when there was no election. I've been there, and I will always be there. I've been there for many families. No, I don't tell the story about that. I don't tell how many students I got into college. I don't tell the graduation rate, because for me, it's always been about one thing. That's serving. That's all I know. That's all I've been working for. And that's what you'll find in me if you allow me to serve you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. All right. Now, Dr. Nix, we want to give you that same opportunity. I know the last question kind of lended itself as a closing, but we'd like to give you 2 minutes to make an official closing remarks.
Yes. I'm Dr. Nishan Nix. My values around faith, family, and community. I have been spending this entire election knocking on doors from the east side, Springfield, Durkeeville, Newtown, Mixontown, Grand Park, Paxson, Ortega, Avondale, Murray Hill, and I've been meeting my constituents face to face, at the front door, in the community, at the park, and some of them teaching their daughters how to ride a bike. That is the type of person I am. I don't have an avoidance behavior. They ask me, are you an independent thinker? Do you have a backbone? Do you have a vision for our babies and some fire in your belly? And I got a whole lot of fire. I am willing to work with anybody to help move our school board and our school district forward. Now, I'm the only candidate that's definitively said, when asked the question, will you fight to keep my local neighborhood school open? I definitively say yes every single time, as if my own children attended that school. Why? Because our local neighborhood schools, they hold our tradition. For some of them, it holds our identity. And Duval has a rich history throughout the city, whether it's the north side, the south side, the east side, west side, Baldwin, Ponte Vedra, and the beaches. I'm running for School Board District 5, but when elected, I will fight for every school and every child. I believe the standard should be excellence. It's not a problem with saying it. The challenge comes with execution. I have been executing for year after year and day after day for our future. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Nix. And on behalf of the Jacksonville Public Education Fund, we'd like to thank the candidates for participating in this important community forum on tonight. And thank you to Edward Waters University for hosting us on this evening. I'd like to give a shout out to Ms. Bolton in the back, who's helped us organize this entire thing on tonight. So thank you to Ms. Beverly Bolton. And to all the attendees who took place on tonight and to log on, we want to remind you of the importance of voting during this election. We want you to please make a plan to join us on August 1st, this Thursday, for our District 7 forum that will be happening at the Hopewell Church as we meet with Miss Sarah Mannion and Miss Melody Bolduc. And remember those blue form surveys that everyone was passed out. Please make sure you fill those out on this evening before you leave so we can get some great feedback from you all on how to possibly plan forward on these forums and what to do better and just to hear your voice on tonight's forum. So please make plans today to get with others in your network, get them informed, get them ready to cast an informed vote. Remember, kids cannot vote, but you can. So early voting is August 5th through the 18th, and the primary election is on August 20th. Thank you once again for joining us on tonight, and have a great night. Thank you.